Let's now shift our focus from the United States to the United Kingdom. The drama around the royal family just refuses to die down, even at a time when the UK is preparing for the coronation of King Charles III. A significant portion of the young population actually wants the monarchy to end, and this is as part of a survey that has been done. So as we pointed out, as the United Kingdom is still decked up for the coronation that will take place for King Charles III, a survey by YouGov now suggests that 40% of the younger population, in fact, wants the monarchy to end. A poll with a sample size of 4,500 people was conducted, and 40% of them said that they weren't interested in the royal family anymore and an elected head should replace the king. The poll also highlights the varying degrees of the UK youth disinterest with the royal family. Let's also now bring in our colleague. Sanjay Suri is now standing by to help us understand why is there a sudden shift as far as the interest in the royal family is concerned. Sanjay, is it because the Queen is no more and the Queen was the symbol of the monarchy for generations together, and it's very difficult to digest the fact that somebody has been replaced and thus the interest is now fading?
Well, you know, the institution of monarchy was never quite separate from the late Queen for generations. 70 years, she was a very constant and stabilizing factor in public life and perceptions. And she was a much loved figure. She was quite genuinely liked. There's nobody who had a bad word to say about her. Now, that has changed. This is not just about the fact that King Charles is personally less popular, which undoubtedly he is. It's just that the attention to monarchy has been depersonalized. Now it's not about the Queen, and of course the Queen is there. Now it's about the monarchy. Do we want this or not? The figures that you describe clearly point to a great deal of disaffection amongst the young particularly. And a lot of the young quite actively oppose the monarchy, but almost twice the number that you describe, closer to 80%, say they are quite indifferent, which means they are simply bored.
Yeah.
They simply couldn't care less one way or the other. And that is a sign of times to come. And what is the monarchy now? It's Charles and Camilla. And Charles, I'll give you an example of what I saw for myself when I was outside Buckingham Palace. And of course, there's always a crowd outside there. And Charles, King Charles, let's say, was driven out in his Rolls Royce, and he raised his hand to wave to the crowd, but no one was waving at him. This kind of scene would have been unthinkable for Queen Elizabeth II. And now the monarchy is what? It is Charles and Camilla, and then it is William and Kate, who are both, between them, deadly dull. They interest nobody. And then you have Harry on the side and Andrew on the side, who have been excommunicated. So this is all that there is now of the royal family, and there's not a lot of excitement around it.
Yeah, I agree with the point that you're making, Sanjay. And, you know, this has been a debate for the longest time, that is it time for the royalty to go? Because the younger generation also wants to raise questions as far as where is their hard-earned money going, why are they paying taxes, so on and so forth. And as you said, the personality that represented the royalty for the longest time, that kind of passion or interest is not seen. And then, you know, you already have controversies between family members, Harry and Meghan, William and Kate. Has this been a concern that even family members within the royalty realize that that kind of fandom, if one had to say, is dipping?
Very clearly. We have a very active PR machinery working for King Charles. He goes here and there, and they are putting out notes, trying to get people to go, trying to get him to be popular. Now, the Queen, the late Queen, never needed to do this. And this is, for a start, a sign that King Charles seems to be needing some sort of a boost. Well, I'm king, I'm the monarch. Please, I deserve to be, and I would like to be celebrated as the late Queen was. It's not just that PR machinery at work. A lot of places where King Charles has been going, he has been met with demonstrators. People have been coming out and raising slogans and carrying placards against the monarchy. Again, unthinkable in the time of the late Queen. So he is not just unpopular, he is being resisted very actively on the streets. And there are persistent questions. Where is all this money going? Why is the government spending so much money on this royal tamasha? And royalty itself has so much money. By one estimate, by The Guardian a few days back, worth 1.8 billion pounds. Now, where is all this money coming from? Where will it go? Where is the accountability? It's all a very opaque system. People are left guessing how much money there is, and people are saying increasingly and increasingly more loudly that this is not the way it should be.
Sanjay, I also want to understand something. This is something that you said before. Is it now fair to say that it's this not a Charles problem, King Charles III problem, but just a problem as far as what the royalty represents? Because many had possibly discussed that it was just that the younger generation now wants to see a younger face because the connect will be better. So do you think things will be better once maybe William takes over, or is it just overall the sentiment against the royalty?
You know, William is not likely to be opposed very actively because he's simply such a very boring figure. Amongst the royalty and the lineage that we've seen for some generations or even centuries now, it's hard to think of a royal figure who arouses less interest than does personally William, and the very correct and publicly presented correct picture of him and Kate. But there is now a question about also the whole trappings of royalty. Of course, the coronation is going to be a very grand spectacle and very well choreographed, very carefully choreographed. And this kind of spectacle, Britain does well. It's hard to think of another country that presents such a spectacle, whether it's a coronation or a wedding or a funeral even. So this kind of thing, Britain has worked out very well. But increasingly, people are beginning to think that there's a cost to this, and who is paying the cost and why?
Yeah. Sanjay, lastly, before I let you go, whatever said and done, the coronation is still going to be a spectacle that the royal family would want to be seen everywhere. And as you said, there is a very aggressive PR machinery at place as well. What are the kind of arrangements that are already in place in the events that are lined up as we inch closer towards the coronation?
Well, for a start, it's a coronation weekend. On the 6th of May, which is the Saturday, we'll have the coronation, and we will have the procession from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Abbey, where the coronation will take place, and the ceremony will be within Westminster Abbey. Again, it's a very poignant ceremony. There's a lot of tradition behind it. There'll be a lot of color, a lot of ceremony, and also solemnity to be blessed by the Church of England. And more importantly, the procession following the coronation, because that's when King Charles III would have been anointed. So the procession on the way back will be of greater interest. It will be interesting to see who walks in that procession, where, and no question really more interesting than where Harry will walk in that procession, if he does at all, and also where he'll be seated in the Abbey. So a lot of interest in how these family feuds are going to play out ceremonially, if you like. And then, of course, at the very end, you will have the appearance in the balcony. That balcony appearance is a much reduced appearance now. The Queen is no more. Harry won't be there. Andrew won't be there. Charles, Camilla, William, Kate, a few grandkids, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that it's a possibility that Harry actually could be sitting as far as the 10th row, and he'll possibly have a very quick entry and exit. So we'll really have to see how that plays out. Sanjay, always a pleasure speaking to you. Keep tracking those developments for us. The next week is going to be all about as far as the royal family is concerned.